One of the clearest signs that karma has finally caught up with the narcissist who destroyed you is when they begin losing control over the image they worked so hard to create. For most people, reputation is important, but for a narcissist, it is often everything. Their image is not simply a reflection of who they are, it is a carefully constructed shield designed to hide who they really are. The confidence they display, the charm they project, the stories they tell, and the way they present themselves to others are all part of a carefully managed performance. They want people to see them as admirable, successful, innocent, generous, or misunderstood. Whatever role gains them the most attention, sympathy, or control is usually the role they choose to play. When you were involved with a narcissist, you probably experienced a version of them that very few people ever saw. Behind closed doors, you witnessed behavior that contradicted the image they showed the world. You may have seen manipulation disguised as concern. You may have seen cruelty hidden beneath a charming smile. You may have experienced emotional abuse while watching them convince everyone else that they were kind and caring. This creates one of the most frustrating experiences for survivors because the truth you lived through often seems invisible to everyone around you. While you are left trying to heal from the damage they caused, they continue receiving praise, attention, and support from people who have no idea what is really happening. For a period of time, this can feel incredibly unfair. You may even begin questioning whether they will ever face consequences. You might wonder how someone can hurt people so deeply and still appear to thrive. But what many survivors eventually discover is that maintaining a false image requires enormous effort. The narcissist is constantly managing perceptions, controlling narratives, and making sure people see only what they want them to see. Every lie must be supported by another lie. Every contradiction must be explained away. Every criticism must be deflected. Every mistake must be blamed on someone else. Over time, this becomes harder and harder to sustain. The truth has a way of creating pressure beneath the surface. Even when people cannot immediately identify what is wrong, they often begin sensing inconsistencies. They notice that the narcissist's words and actions do not match. They observe patterns that seem strange. They hear conflicting stories from different people. Small doubts begin forming in places where absolute trust once existed. The narcissist may not notice it at first, but the foundation of their carefully crafted image begins developing cracks. What makes this process so significant is that narcissists depend heavily on external validation. Their sense of worth often comes from how others perceive them. They need admiration, attention, approval, and recognition. When people praise them, they feel powerful. When people believe their version of events, they feel secure. When people admire their accomplishments, they feel important. But when that admiration begins fading, something changes inside them. They become anxious, defensive, and increasingly desperate to regain control. You may notice that they start over-explaining themselves. They may become obsessed with what others think. They may spend more time trying to defend their reputation than actually living their lives. Sometimes they begin attacking anyone who questions them. Other times they launch smear campaigns against people who know too much. They may accuse others of the very behaviors they are guilty of. They may portray themselves as victims in situations where they were actually responsible for the harm. These reactions often reveal how terrified they are of losing control over the narrative. One of the most powerful aspects of karma is that it often unfolds naturally. The narcissist's own behavior creates the circumstances that expose them. They become overconfident. They repeat the same manipulative patterns with multiple people. They underestimate the ability of others to recognize deception. Eventually, enough evidence accumulates that maintaining the illusion becomes impossible. People start comparing experiences. Former friends talk to one another. Family members notice recurring problems. Colleagues begin questioning inconsistencies. The same patterns that once helped the narcissist gain control become the very patterns that reveal who they really are. This doesn't always happen dramatically. There isn't always a public confrontation or a moment where everyone suddenly realizes the truth. Sometimes the change is quiet. Invitations become less frequent. Trust begins disappearing. Relationships grow distant. Opportunities start drying up. People become more cautious around them. The admiration they once enjoyed slowly fades away. The narcissist may still pretend everything is fine, but internally they feel the shift. They recognize that something is changing, even if they refuse to admit why. For someone who built their identity around appearances, this can be one of the most painful consequences imaginable. Losing control over their image means losing control over how people respond to them. It means they can no longer manipulate reality as easily as they once did. It means they must face situations where their charm no longer works. It means encountering people who see through the performance. And perhaps most importantly, it means realizing that the mask they depended on is no longer protecting them the way it once did. Many survivors spend years hoping for revenge, justice, or some dramatic form of punishment, but often the most fitting consequence is watching the narcissist lose the very thing they valued most. Not because someone destroyed them, not because someone plotted against them, but because the truth eventually became stronger than the image they created. The reputation they spent years building begins collapsing under the weight of their own actions. The admiration they once enjoyed becomes harder to find. The control they fought so hard to maintain slowly slips through their fingers. And in that moment, karma is not something being done to them. Karma is simply the natural result of a life built on deception finally colliding with reality. Another powerful sign that karma has finally caught up with the narcissist who destroyed you is when their relationships repeatedly fall apart. This is often difficult for survivors to believe at first because narcissists are masters at creating appearances. After the relationship ends, they frequently move on quickly, presenting a picture of happiness, confidence, and success. From the outside, it may seem as though they have effortlessly replaced you and are living a wonderful life. Social media posts, public displays of affection, and carefully crafted stories can make it appear that everything is going perfectly. For someone still healing from emotional wounds, this illusion can be incredibly painful. You may find yourself wondering whether they have changed, whether they are treating someone else better, or whether you were somehow the problem all along. These thoughts are understandable because narcissists often leave their victims carrying the blame for problems they created. They are skilled at shifting responsibility away from themselves and onto others. During the relationship, they may have convinced you that your reactions were the issue rather than their behavior. They may have portrayed themselves as the victim whenever conflict arose. Over time, this can create deep self-doubt, making it easy to believe that the next relationship will somehow be different. But the reality is that narcissistic patterns do not disappear simply because a new person enters the picture. A narcissist may change partners, but unless they have done significant self-reflection and genuine personal work, they usually bring the same unhealthy behaviors into every relationship they enter. The faces may change, but the cycle remains remarkably similar. In the beginning, they often appear charming, attentive, and deeply invested. They know how to create excitement and emotional intensity. They know how to make someone feel special and chosen. This stage can feel almost magical because the narcissist is focused on securing admiration, affection, and emotional investment from the other person. However, once the relationship becomes established, the dynamics often begin to shift. The attention that once felt genuine starts becoming inconsistent. The kindness becomes conditional, criticism slowly replaces encouragement. Manipulation begins appearing in subtle ways. The same need for control that existed in previous relationships starts emerging again. The same inability to take responsibility becomes visible. The same emotional games, guilt tactics, blame shifting, and self-centered behavior begin creating tension. At first, the new partner may try harder to make the relationship work. They may overlook red flags, make excuses, or believe that difficult periods are temporary. This is exactly what many survivors did during their own experience, but eventually, reality becomes impossible to ignore. The patterns repeat because the core issues remain unchanged. A narcissist often expects relationships to provide endless validation while contributing very little emotional accountability in return. They want loyalty without earning trust. They want understanding without offering empathy. They want forgiveness without accepting responsibility. This creates a situation where conflict becomes inevitable. Healthy relationships require mutual respect, honesty, compromise, and emotional maturity. They require both people to acknowledge mistakes and work through challenges together. Narcissists often struggle with these requirements because admitting fault threatens the image they have of themselves. Rather than examining their behavior, they may attack, withdraw, manipulate, or blame others. As a result, problems remain unresolved and continue growing over time. What makes this particularly significant as a form of karma is that narcissists often crave admiration and connection while simultaneously engaging in behaviors that destroy both. They want people to stay, but they create environments that push people away. They want loyalty, but they violate trust. They want love, but they treat relationships as sources of validation rather than genuine partnerships. The very actions they use to gain power eventually undermine the connections they depend upon. Over time, this pattern creates a trail of damaged relationships. Former friends become distant. Romantic partners leave. Family relationships become strained. Professional connections deteriorate. People who once defended the narcissist begin recognizing recurring problems. The narcissist may continue blaming everyone else, insisting that they are surrounded by difficult, ungrateful, or disloyal people. But eventually, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. When the same conflicts occur repeatedly with different individuals across different stages of life, the common denominator becomes increasingly clear. One of the most frustrating realities for narcissists is that they often cannot understand why their relationships keep failing. Because they struggle with self-awareness and accountability, they frequently interpret every breakup, conflict, or rejection as evidence of someone else's shortcomings. Instead of learning from painful experiences, they repeat them. Instead of changing unhealthy behaviors, they double down on them. This prevents growth and keeps them trapped in cycles that become increasingly destructive over time. As the years pass, maintaining meaningful relationships often becomes more difficult. People become less willing to tolerate manipulation. Those who have been hurt share their experiences. Others become cautious. The narcissist may still attract new individuals through charm and charisma, but sustaining long-term healthy connections becomes increasingly challenging. The excitement of new relationships cannot compensate for the inability to maintain them. This is where karma reveals itself in a profound way. The narcissist often spends years pursuing control, admiration, and personal gain, believing these things will bring fulfillment. Yet the behaviors used to achieve those goals gradually erode the very relationships that could have provided genuine support, trust, and companionship. While they may appear successful from a distance, many find themselves repeating the same emotional battles again and again, unable to create the stability they secretly desire. The cycle becomes its own consequence. Each failed relationship serves as evidence that the underlying issues remain unresolved. Each connection that breaks apart reflects patterns they refuse to confront. And with every repetition, the cost becomes greater, the loneliness becomes deeper, and the opportunity for authentic connection becomes harder to find. The third sign that karma has finally caught up with the narcissist who destroyed you is often the least visible, yet it may be the most powerful of all. It happens when they can no longer escape themselves. Many people imagine karma as something dramatic and external. They picture public humiliation, financial loss, failed relationships, or some obvious consequence that everyone can see. While those things can certainly happen, some of the deepest consequences a narcissist faces occur entirely within their own mind. They are consequences that cannot be hidden by appearances, money, status, charm, or attention. One of the greatest misconceptions about narcissists is that they genuinely love themselves. From the outside, they often appear confident, self-assured, and even arrogant. They speak as though they are superior to others. They may act entitled, demand special treatment, and behave as though the world revolves around them. Because of this, many people assume narcissists possess an abundance of self-esteem. In reality, what often exists beneath the surface is something very different. Their confidence is frequently fragile and dependent upon constant reinforcement from the outside world. They need admiration to feel important. They need attention to feel visible. They need validation to feel worthy. Without those external sources, they are often left confronting insecurities they have spent years trying to avoid. This is why narcissists work so hard to control how others see them. Their image becomes a shield protecting them from uncomfortable truths about themselves. As long as people admire them, they can maintain the illusion that everything is fine. As long as they receive attention, they can temporarily silence feelings of emptiness. As long as they remain the center of someone's emotional world, they can avoid facing the deeper issues that exist beneath the surface. The problem is that external validation is never permanent. No amount of praise lasts forever. No amount of admiration permanently satisfies emotional emptiness. No relationship can endlessly provide reassurance. No achievement can completely erase insecurity. Because of this, narcissists often find themselves chasing more and more validation throughout their lives. What worked yesterday is no longer enough today. The attention that once felt satisfying quickly fades, creating a need for even more recognition, more control, and more admiration. At first, this pursuit may seem successful. They may accumulate achievements, social status, romantic partners, or professional accomplishments. From a distance, it may appear as though they are winning. They may project confidence and success while convincing others that they have everything under control. Yet beneath the surface, the same internal struggles remain unresolved. The distractions become more sophisticated, but the emptiness remains. As time passes, many narcissists become trapped in a cycle of constant emotional hunger. They keep searching for something that will finally make them feel complete. They believe the next relationship will solve the problem. They believe the next achievement will provide satisfaction. They believe more attention, more success, more admiration, or more power will finally fill the void. But each new accomplishment provides only temporary relief. The feeling fades and the search begins again. This endless pursuit becomes exhausting. Imagine spending years trying to outrun your own thoughts, your own insecurities, and your own unresolved emotional wounds. Imagine constantly needing reassurance from others because you cannot provide it for yourself. Imagine requiring constant validation just to maintain a sense of worth. Eventually, that lifestyle becomes difficult to sustain. The energy required to uphold the image, secure admiration, and avoid self-reflection grows heavier with time. For many narcissists, aging can intensify this struggle. The sources of validation they once relied upon may become less effective. Physical appearance changes, social influence shifts, relationships become harder to maintain. New generations enter the spotlight. The attention they once received naturally may require greater effort to obtain. This can trigger feelings of frustration, bitterness, resentment, and anger because the strategies that worked in the past no longer produce the same results. What makes this form of karma so significant is that it comes from within. Unlike external consequences, it cannot simply be blamed on another person. A narcissist may accuse former partners of being toxic. They may blame family members, co-workers, friends, or society for their problems, but they cannot permanently escape their own internal experience. No matter where they go, they bring themselves with them. The insecurities they avoid remain present. The emotional wounds they refuse to address continue influencing their lives. The fears they suppress continue operating beneath the surface. Many narcissists spend years avoiding genuine self-reflection because it feels threatening. Looking inward may force them to confront painful truths. They may have to acknowledge mistakes they made, harm they caused, or patterns they repeated. They may have to face emotions they spent decades suppressing. Instead of doing this difficult work, they often continue seeking distractions. Unfortunately, distractions lose their effectiveness over time. There often comes a point when the noise quiets down, the admiration becomes less intense, the relationships become less stable, the excitement becomes harder to sustain. In those moments, the narcissist is left alone with thoughts and feelings they have spent years trying to avoid. This is where one of the deepest forms of karma emerges. It is not necessarily public. It is not always visible. Others may never fully understand what is happening internally, yet the struggle is real. A person can possess wealth and still feel empty. They can receive attention and still feel invisible. They can be surrounded by people and still feel profoundly alone. They can achieve success and still feel dissatisfied. These experiences reveal a painful truth that many narcissists spend their lives trying to avoid. External achievements cannot create internal peace. While healthy individuals gradually develop self-awareness, emotional resilience, and authentic self-worth, narcissists often remain trapped in a cycle of seeking from others what they have never learned to build within themselves. The result is a life that may appear impressive on the surface while feeling increasingly unfulfilling underneath. The gap between appearance and reality grows larger, and maintaining the illusion becomes harder. Eventually, the person they have spent years running from is waiting for them in every quiet moment, every failed distraction, and every attempt to fill a void that external validation can never truly satisfy. One of the most revealing signs that karma has finally caught up with the narcissist who destroyed you is when the mask they spent years perfecting begins to slip. Few things are more important to a narcissist than controlling how they are perceived. Their public image is often carefully crafted, polished, and protected. They invest tremendous energy into appearing charming, confident, compassionate, successful, or trustworthy because these qualities help them gain admiration and influence. To the outside world, they may seem like the ideal friend, partner, family member, leader, or professional. Many people find it difficult to believe that someone who appears so impressive could be capable of manipulation, deception, or emotional abuse. This is one reason survivors often feel isolated after leaving a narcissistic relationship. They know what happened behind closed doors, yet they watch others continue praising the very person who caused so much pain. The contrast between the narcissist's public image and private behavior can be so extreme that survivors sometimes question their own reality. They wonder whether anyone will ever understand what they experienced. They wonder whether the truth will remain hidden forever. The challenge for the narcissist is that maintaining a false image requires constant effort. Every interaction becomes part of a performance. Every conversation must support the character they want others to believe. Every criticism must be managed. Every flaw must be concealed. Every mistake must be explained away. This creates a life built not on authenticity but on image management. While healthy individuals can relax into who they are, narcissists often feel compelled to continuously protect the version of themselves they present to the world. At first, this strategy can be remarkably effective. Their charm helps them gain trust quickly. Their confidence attracts admiration. Their ability to tell persuasive stories allows them to shape how others view situations. People naturally want to believe someone who appears charismatic and self-assured. Because of this, narcissists often succeed in convincing others that they are victims, heroes, experts, or exceptionally caring individuals. They become skilled at creating first impressions that leave little room for doubt. The problem is that no one can perfectly maintain a false identity forever. Human behavior eventually reveals patterns. The more time people spend around someone, the more opportunities they have to observe inconsistencies. Small contradictions begin appearing. The stories do not always match. The reactions seem disproportionate. The kindness appears conditional. The generosity comes with hidden expectations. What initially looked genuine starts feeling calculated. Often, the first signs are subtle. Someone notices how the narcissist speaks differently about people when they are absent. Another person observes how quickly they become defensive when questioned. Someone else notices that conflicts seem to follow them wherever they go. Individually, these observations may not seem significant. Together, however, they begin forming a larger picture. One reason the mask eventually slips is because narcissists tend to repeat the same behavioral patterns with multiple people. They may believe each new relationship provides a fresh opportunity to reinvent themselves, but unresolved patterns have a way of resurfacing. The manipulation that affected one partner eventually affects another. The dishonesty that damaged one friendship appears in future friendships. The blame shifting that created tension in one environment emerges again elsewhere. Because the underlying issues remain unchanged, the same consequences keep appearing. As more people encounter these patterns, it becomes increasingly difficult for the narcissist to control the narrative. Individuals who once accepted their explanations begin comparing experiences. Former friends talk, family members share observations, co-workers notice recurring issues. The narcissist may attempt to dismiss concerns, but repeated patterns are harder to explain away than isolated incidents. This process often triggers intense frustration within the narcissist. They may become more controlling in an attempt to preserve their image. They may react aggressively toward anyone who challenges them. They may launch smear campaigns against people who know too much. They may accuse others of jealousy, betrayal, dishonesty, or manipulation. In many cases, the very behaviors they use to defend themselves end up exposing them further. Their reactions become evidence of the problems they are trying to deny. What makes the slipping mask such a powerful form of karma is that it strikes at the foundation of the narcissist's sense of security. They rely heavily on external perception. When people admire them, they feel powerful. When people believe them, they feel validated. When people support their version of events, they feel protected. But when trust begins eroding, they experience something deeply uncomfortable. They realize they can no longer control how others see them. This loss of control often creates anxiety that outsiders rarely recognize. While the narcissist may continue appearing confident, they become increasingly preoccupied with protecting their reputation. They monitor what others think. They worry about criticism. They become obsessed with maintaining influence. The image that once felt effortless now requires constant maintenance. As the mask continues slipping, the narcissist may find that opportunities begin disappearing, relationships become strained, invitations become less frequent, trust becomes harder to earn, people who once defended them become more cautious. The automatic admiration they once enjoyed starts fading. These changes may not happen overnight, but they accumulate over time. One of the most significant aspects of this process is that it occurs naturally. It is not usually the result of revenge or retaliation. It happens because reality eventually reveals what performance cannot permanently hide. Authentic character becomes visible through repeated actions. The truth emerges through patterns. The longer people observe the narcissist, the harder it becomes to ignore what consistently appears beneath the surface. For survivors, witnessing this process can be both validating and freeing. Not because another person's downfall should become the focus of healing, but because it confirms an important reality. The behavior you experienced was real. The manipulation was real. The contradictions were real. The confusion you felt was not imagined. The truth simply took time to become visible to others. The mask that once seemed impossible to remove gradually weakens under the weight of repeated behavior, and the carefully constructed image that protected the narcissist for so long becomes increasingly difficult to sustain as more people begin seeing not the character they created, but the person they worked so hard to conceal.